Nice spring day here in Chicago. Temperatures in the 60s and the wind is blowing out. And a nice crowd gathering. Pirates and Cubs coming up. It's the Hyundai leadoff man on WGN Sports. And welcome to the booth, getting your weekend off to an early start. Cubs baseball, a matinee on a Friday. Pirates are here, and the Cubs, Jim Deshaies, last week went in and swept the Bucks.
Indeed they did. And the three pitchers that worked in that series will pitch this weekend for the Cubs. That would be Hamill, Arrieta, and Lester. They outscored them 20-5 in that three-game set. You see they batted .318, they're holding the Pirates to just a .212 batting average. Anthony Rizzo was lighting it up. All kinds of good things happening for the Cubs in that three-game sweep over the Pirates in Pittsburgh. Rizzo, over an extended period of time now, has been red hot, but he really torched Pirate pitching in that series. Yeah,
he had 8 hits and 14 at-bats. 5 of those were doubles. He homered as well. And his OPS on the season, 1,032. So he is definitely locked in right now. Jorge Soler is in the lineup, had a tough night Wednesday night. We'll hear from his manager, Joe Maddon, as we continue the leadoff man here on WGN. Is brought to you by your Chicago and Northwest Indiana Hyundai dealers. Test drive their all-star lineup today. Visit buyhyundai.com. Jorge Soler will start for the 5th time in the Cubs' last 6 games. Had a rough one in Game 2 of the doubleheader the other night against the Padres. Let's hear from his manager, Joe Maddon.
You know, he just has to go out there and play. He needs opportunity. I don't get, when a guy has a tough day, I don't get really carried away in a negative way. It's part of development. It's part of making a young player a good major league player. There's a lot of patience involved. You saw what he did at the end of last season. Nobody's complaining about that. He's had a tough day the other day, so he hit some balls really well. He hit a ball not so long ago, and one of the start before that, crushed it to center field, and 100 and some miles an hour off the bat, and the wind kept it in the ballpark. And had that ball gone out, everybody thought he'd be fine. So you're attempting to develop young players. There's a lot of patience involved. And then if you put your scout's hat on, you can see what the eventual reward's going to look like. So with a guy like Georgie, you have to be patient. His development has been spotty in a sense because of injuries. He's shown flashes of brilliance. And like I said, I guess, you know, from a fan's perspective, or where you guys asking me questions, I could understand where you're coming from. From where I sit, it's very easy to see what the right thing to do is. So I can't and I won't get caught up in that kind of rhetoric. It's about a young man develop. And I've also said that we're about winning right now, and I think George could be a big part of it when you match him up right. And the matchups were good on, was that Wednesday? And the matchup is better today. I mean, with today and tomorrow with Locke. So you just got to keep throwing them out there until eventually it clicks, and it will.
When we come back, this rivalry renews. Game 4 of 19 coming up. Leadoff Man is brought to you by your Chicago and Northwest Indiana Hyundai dealers. Test drive their all-star lineup today. Visit buyhyundai.com. Cubs 25-8. They've got a 7-game lead over the Pirates, who are 18-15. They're a couple of percentage points ahead of the Cardinals. Pirates have been good offensively, and they get a boost. They've had Jung-Ho Kang back for the last 5 games.
Hey, you remember early last year, the Pirates weren't sure what they had in Jung-Ho Kang. He struggled early on, but really turned things around in the second half. He was outstanding. For the year last year, he had 15 home runs, so they're happy to have him back in the lineup. 5 out of 15 so far. He had 2 home runs in his very first game off the disabled list.
They've got a great outfield as well. We know about Andrew McCutchen. April, not great in terms of the batting average. Much better here to start the month of May. Has always been good in this ballpark.
Yeah, you know, it was just a matter of time before McCutchen started to put up big-time numbers. He's one of the elite players in the sport. So, yeah, much better in May after a sluggish start. And really an important piece for these Pirates this year. Young Gregory Polanco signed a long-term contract extension. Struggled a little bit the last few days, but overall putting up very good numbers, part of that tremendous outfield with McCutchen and Marte.
It is time for our national anthem.
At this time, please remain standing and join Wayne Mesmer as he honors America with our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Nice day here in Chicago as WGN Sports brings you Chicago Cubs baseball. Sun is shining, wind is blowing out, believe it or not, as the Pirates and Cubs open up a weekend series. Welcome to the broadcast booth. Jim Deshaies and Len Casper with you. The Cubs trying to end their first losing streak of the season. They were swept in a doubleheader on Wednesday. Let's get right into the pitching matchup. A lefty for the Pirates, a righty for the Cubs.
Yeah, Jason Hamill off to a great start. You see his numbers from his start at Pittsburgh on May 2nd. He is 4-0. He has a 1.85 ERA, good for 4th best in the league. Francisco Liriano has been really good against the Cubs in his career. 5-2 with a 2.27. He has a 1.56 ERA here at Wrigley Field. That's his best earned run average in any ballpark where he's made at least 5 starts.
15 games against the Central. The Cubs are 13-2. They welcome in the Pirates. First of 3 next. Baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Not backing down since 1876. This Bud's for you. Honda. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda. Now at your Honda dealer. State Farm. Combine your car and home insurance with State Farm and start saving. Call your State Farm agent today or find one at statefarm.com. Mattress Firm, where we want you to sleep happy guaranteed. Remember, if it's over 8, it's time to replace. Your Chicago area and Northwest Indiana Lexus dealer. And by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. Chicago Cubs baseball in beautiful high definition is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Jason Hamill will face the following Pirates lineup. They have been good offensively to start the year. They get on base a lot. Don't hit a ton of home runs. John Jaso, an on-base machine at the top. McCutchen moving up to the second spot this year. Polanco, Marte go 3 and 4. Francisco Cervelli has been terrific with the bat and back of the plate. Jung Ho Kang playing third, batting 6th. Josh Harrison is at second. Jordy Mercer off to a very good start at short, and the pitcher Liriano, look at that, 294.
Well, let's see who's where for the Cubs this afternoon. The front court out there in the outfield, Soler, Fowler, and Hayward. Infield alignment, Bryant, Russell, Zobrist on the right side. David Ross is the catcher, and the starting pitcher is brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois. The card to carry through it all. Jason Hamill through 6 starts. He's been quite good, hasn't he? 4-0 with a 1.85 ERA. Batting average is just .212. 34 innings, he's allowed 25 hits. Just one home run that came in his start in Pittsburgh 2 starts ago. Andrew McCutchen got him. He's one guy to keep an eye on. McCutchen has very good numbers against Jason in his career.
It's like a big crowd gathering on a beautiful day. Pat Holberg is the home plate umpire. Brian Knight, Todd Tishner, and the crew chief Bill Welke on the bases.
Cubs are 5-1 in Jason's 6 starts. He got a no decision last time out against the Nationals.
Both teams off yesterday, and a sinker is in there on Jaso to get us started. Hamels 33, 6'6", 225. Port Orchard, Washington. Deep breath. And an 0-2. Swing and a miss. That's a good start.
There's a curveball he used to get Jaso. Normally you think of Jason Hamill and you think slider, but he used that curveball a lot in his last start. Much more than he normally does. He got a lot of ground ball outs with it. This time a weak swing by Jaso on the 2-strike curve.
And that will bring up Andrew McCutchen, 226 in April, 306 in 9 games to start May, and a ground ball base hit past a diving Chris Bryant. So McCutchen is on. 65 degrees. We've got a southwest wind. That means straight out to center.
There have been very few hitters' days here at the ballpark so far this year. This looks like it could be one of them. Going up into that breeze, may carry out of here. Beautiful day to play, though, just perfect.
Gregory Polanco has cooled off a bit after a hot start. 4 for 29.
Maybe.
Line drive hitter. He has shortened his swing a little bit, starting to drive the ball with more authority.
That's a strike.
Take his walks. He's walked almost as much as he has struck out. It's been a big point of emphasis for the Pirate hitters this year. See more pitches, work deeper counts, work some walks.
April 5th, he got a 5-year contract extension. So under the Pirates team control through 2021, and they've got 2 club option years as well. So if he turns into the kind of player the Pirates believe he will, it will be a nice bargain. Every young player is different. The conventional wisdom is to take the first contract, take care of your family, make sure that no matter what happens, you're set.
Yeah,
and
I think
that
that's
next one's the big
I
one.
think most guys are willing to make that trade-off to get that security at a younger age. You give up some arbitration, you give up maybe a year or 2 of free agency.
Foul tipped, 1-2.
And especially for the guys that come into the league at a very young age. So, they could get to free agency even if it's pushed back a couple of years and still be in their prime.
Foul tip, strike 3. Both outs have been strikeouts. The swinging variety, 2 gone, and it'll bring up Starling Marte.
Well, you mentioned Polanco's struggles of late, and a lot of times for a left-handed hitter, it's an elevated fastball can be a bit of a problem. When he's at his best, he'll lay off that pitch, force the pitcher down in the zone just a little bit.
He was ejected along with Clint Hurdle on a Wednesday in Cincinnati. 6th inning, argued an overturned call at second base. He was called safe on a stolen base attempt. Replay review reversed it. His problem was he felt Brandon Phillips kind of nudged him off the bag. And the Pirates were perplexed by his ejection, said he didn't deserve it. Past Hamill. Russell will make the play. Cubs coming up after the Pirates fail to score. One to nothing by the Padres, but they still lead the majors 5.94 runs per game. Their Southwest starting lineup: Fowler, Hayward, and Bryant in the first, and hopefully more than that. Rizzo, Zobrist, Soler, Russell, Ross, and Hamill rounding it out.
Pirates defensively, there's that trio in the outfield: Marte, McCutchen, and Polanco. Gung, Mercer, Harrison, Jaso. Third to first. Francisco Cervelli is behind the plate, and Francisco Liriano is on the mound. 91 and 80 lifetime with a 396 this year. 3-1, 3.60. League gets 227 against him. He's got great movement on a 2-seam fastball, slider and changeup, both above average pitches. When he's on his game, he can be awfully tough to hit. He does walk a few, but he can rack up the strikeouts as well.
He has had a very intriguing major league career, and we'll get into that as the day moves along. Sinker for a strike to Dexter Fowler, leading the majors with that on-base percentage, getting on at almost a 46% clip. 1-1, swing and a miss.
And there's the changeup. I think depending on the hitter you talk to, and maybe in any given day, and try to identify what Liriano's best pitch is. Some guys are going to say the change, others would say the slider.
Change looks good early.
Change in the slider, the same speed. One goes one way, one goes the other. Very difficult to read it out of his hands. Since 2013 against the Cubs, he has a 190 earned run average. 4-1 with a 1.56. 5 career starts here at Wrigley Field.
So it brings up Jason Hayward. welcome those viewers watching on MLB Network today. Up and in on Hayward. He's got 5 hits his last 4 games, and talking about Polanco signing that long-term extension. Hayward became a free agent at 26. He did sign a 2-year deal, his last deal with the Braves. Final year of that deal was with the Cardinals after he was traded. And he probably gave up a little money to sign with the Cubs. Pretty widely felt that he could have got more than the 8 years, 184 he got to come to Chicago. 1-2. We're also on the Armed Forces Network around the world. Thanks to all the men and women serving our country abroad. So Liriano has been the comeback player of the year in each league.
How many guys have done that?
Yeah, it's when you look at his numbers, it's really interesting. He had a good start to his career. He was an All-Star his rookie year with the Twins. Then he had Tommy John surgery. You look at some of the earned run averages, over 5 through a no-hitter with the Twins. 2011 ended up with the White Sox, the team he no-hit. And then when he signed with the Pirates, that ERA down around a little over 3 here these last few years as he walks Hayward.
Yeah, well, he's always had outstanding stuff. Maybe he's lost a tick or two in terms of velocity, but the movement, obviously, really good. That changeup, an equalizer. Ray Searage, the pitching coach of the Pirates, you know, considered one of the best. So obviously, he's probably helped a fair bit as well. Liriano, 32 years of age now, came in the league at such a young age. I remember seeing him pitch in Houston when he was just a pup, and I mean, it was lights out.
There's Ray Searage, well-respected Pirates pitching coach. Chris Bryant, the hitter, as Liriano will throw to first. So some notes on the Cubs start. They've lost 2 in a row for the first time. It was the doubleheader sweep on Wednesday. Games 32 and 33, swing and a miss on the change. It was the deepest any major league team had gone into a season without losing back-to-back games since the 1929 Philadelphia Athletics. They went to game 51 and 52 before losing 2 in a row. Still have the best 33 game start in the major leagues since the '98 Yankees. Cubs are 25 and 8. In the air to center, McCutchen will make the grab, and that'll send Hayward back to first. As Joe said after the Cubs were swept the other night, we don't like it, but we probably were going to lose 2 in a row at some point.
Not that folks around here are getting spoiled, but I had the radio on today on my drive to the ballpark and was listening to the call-in show, and the fan called in and said, do you think it's a good thing that the Cubs got the 2-game losing streak out of their system this early in the year? As if there's not going to be another one.
Right. And that it was really early, what, 5-6 weeks into the season. Rizzo with 2 outs. And a big series last week in Pittsburgh. That is a strike. So we've seen that fastball here in the first inning from 90 to 93 miles an hour from Liriano.
Yeah, he can touch 95, but typically sits right around 92. Left-handed hitters have not had much luck against him. They're hitting a .138. He has not allowed a home run to a left-handed batter this year.
Check swing and a bouncer to Gong, and Rizzo actually tripped out of the box, or he might have been able to beat that one out. No score after an inning.
If you want to manage the game along with Joe Madden, log on to WGNTV.com. Do it now. Click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner. Connect to all the up-to-the-minute stats and information right from the comfort of your home. Game Zone is sponsored by The Great Escape. Pools, patio furniture, hot tubs, and more. Everything you need to have more fun at home this summer.
One of two Franciscos. Francisco, that's fun to say. In the Pirates lineup, Cervelli takes a strike. Penguins hosting the Lightning. Eastern Conference Final. NHL. Humble brag, I picked the Penguins to win the East.
I may have too. I have to revisit my bracket.
That's right, you filled one out.
Yeah. Little family bracket going.
1-1 on Cervelli.
Hitting for average, not much power, no home runs. 4 extra base hits, 3 doubles in the triple.
Ball missed the zone, 2-1. Since 2013, a couple years with the Yanks, second year with the Pirates. Put up a 780 OPS. Prior to that, 692 in parts of 5 seasons with the Yankees. Highly touted prospect coming up through the Yankees system. So you could call him a bit of a late bloomer. And on a 3-1, he grounds out to Russell.
I guess he's got a little hamstring, a little leg issue because he wasn't running very hard down the line.
Cub fans, let's go. Tickets are going fast. Don't wait. Plan now. Get tickets to the matchups you want before they're gone. Limited tickets are available for Saturday and Sunday's games against the Pirates. Get your tickets now. Cubs.com. Young had left knee surgery after that September collision at second base. Chris Coghlan, then of the Cubs. So he missed end of the year, the wild card game, and just got back a week ago today. Hit 2 homers in his first game back, and now has 3. And he swung and missed a pitch in the dirt. Big part of their ball club last year until this play.
give him credit for hanging in there, trying to complete that double play, but he took a big hit from Coughlin, ended his season. That was a just good, clean, hard slide by Chris. It would not be legal now.
That's 3 strikeouts for Hamill. And it will bring up Josh Harrison, former Cub farmhand. Let's check out the strikeout pitch.
Slider never really was a strike. We've gotten a couple of wild swings in that sequence.
You know, we call that pitch the slider for Hamill. In baseball parlance, that's the bread and butter, right, for a pitcher. Bunted by Harrison, and it'll be a base hit. So he keeps the inning alive. And it will be Jordy Mercer. You know, for some of these guys, they don't eat a lot of bread. So maybe we should say that the main course.
It's the meal ticket.
The meal ticket. I like it.
That's a beautiful bunt by Harrison. It's a questionable decision to bunt with 2 outs and nobody on, especially for, you know, Harrison's got some pop. He's got extra base power. Now, if he can steal a base here, the bunt single with 2 outs makes more sense. Mercer, though, no slouch, even though he's in the 8-hole in the batting order.
He had the game-winning hit Wednesday in Cincinnati in the 9th inning, and there goes Harrison. And Ross couldn't get a handle.
So all of a sudden that bunt becomes a good play, a much smarter play. With 2 outs, you're normally thinking, let's try to drive the ball, get into scoring position. But if you can do it with a bunt single and a stolen base, and do it early, where you give that 8-hole hitter a chance to drive you in, then even better. He never got the handle. David has been very good this year, controlling the running game.
Harrison will get help from Rick Sofield, their third base coach. Nick Leva is over at first. 1-0 on Mercer, and the pitch. 2 balls, no strikes.
Mercer 6 out of 19 in his career against Hamill with a home run.
Sharply hit on the ground, but Russell is there. And the inning is not only over, but Liriano, the pitcher, will have to lead off the 3rd. Cubs will bat scoreless.
Check out JD and Len's baseball blog at WGNTV.com.
Wrong.
The vlog is sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your nationwide insurance agent, serving the area for 38 years. To join the nation, contact Jeff at jeffvuk.com. Nationwide is on your side.
Just doesn't flow quite as well.
Well, the apostrophe S. See, we got to move the apostrophe S over to Len.
Yeah.
JD and Len's. Right. But it was a quick change. Yeah, just scramble it down. I appreciate the effort.
You know how sometimes you only get the center and the right wing on with the previous line's left wing.
Yeah.
Ben Zobrist takes a strike. He made the final out the other night against his former Ray teammate Fernando Rodney, and they got together at first base. Rodney did the bow and arrow thing that we saw here last year. Ben tried to block it.
Well, you just saw something you rarely see, and that's an ugly hack from Zobrist, and that just speaks to the action on that changeup for Liriano.
Yeah, swings and misses stand out from Zobrist, and there's another one.
Yeah, he doesn't strike out much. As a matter of fact, he and Anthony Rizzo rank first and second in the league in walk to strikeout ratio.
Now Jorge Soler right back in the lineup after the rough game 2 of the doubleheader. On Wednesday, you heard from his manager on the leadoff man. This is Soler's 5th start in his last 6 games. Or the Cubs' last 6, I should say. He had 4 at-bats in game 2, 4 strikeouts. First 2 were looking on borderline calls. The last one came with the bases loaded and 2 outs late in a 1-run game. Joe showing confidence in him. Didn't pinch hit for him and put him right back in there today. And a base hit. There you go.
Yeah, and the other part of it too, it's one of the fun things about baseball. It's one of the great things about baseball is the ability for fans to second guess, decisions and managers make, especially at crunch time, big at bats. And so you could understand why fans would say, we got a hit for him in this situation. He's punched out 3 times already. He's off to a big start. The manager's thinking more macro. I got to get something out of this guy. I got to get him going. And the other part of it is, pitch hitting is a really tough job, and late in the game against good arms on a cold, drizzly night, that's a very difficult assignment.
There's Addison Russell, who got that game off.
Right, and he would have been the likely guy to pinch hit in that situation. He has not had a pinch hit at bat this year. So even guys that make a living doing that know how hard it is to come off the bench and get something done. Soler, even though he had struggled, at least was in the flow of the game. Year in and year out, league-wide pinch hit batting average is in the low 200s.
Liriano's pitch on the ground is second, little flip, and only one. Wasn't hit hard enough for the Pirates to turn 2. Experience the Budweiser bleachers under the left field video board in one of the newest amenities, the left field porch. This private porch setting offers tremendous views of the game with both sunny and shaded areas. Available in 50 to 100 blocks, you'll enjoy lounge style seating, unlimited beverages, and access 2 hours prior to first pitch. For more information, it's Cubs.com/premier. David Ross takes low. 4-1.
I think Harrison was a little too tentative on that ground ball. I think he could have had to. He waits back, and that's what cost him their double play. Jorge's got to get down or he's going to catch one in the forehead.
We might see Miguel Montero back at some point this weekend as David Ross smacks one into center. That will get Hamill to the plate. 2 on and 2 down.
Yeah, Montero, DH'd Pott. I think he's scheduled to catch again tonight. They want to make sure he catches back-to-back games before coming back. Lefty starter here today, lefty starter tomorrow for the Pirates as well. So it's probably the most likely scenario is Miggy activated for Sunday.
Since the start of last year, Hamill has hit 177. They'll give you a chance in that 9 spot. Swing and a miss. And a wedding in the left field porch today. Congrats to Brian and Nikki.
Wonder if they're registered anymore. Get them something nice.
Right.
Maybe a croquet set.
Hamill, an awkward swing to end the inning. Hey, Stevie Wonder, 66 today. Happy birthday.
It's time for the Subway third inning triple play promotion. Text Subway 3 to 97999. Do it now. And the 300th texter will win a $30 gift card to a Subway restaurant in the Chicagoland area. Subway, fresh is what we do. With the wedding action out there in left field.
Hey, there's a ball game going on too. Liriano missed a slider.
He's going to get treated like a legit hitter.
Yeah,
as Hamill was by Liriano. What's good for the Goose.
Oh, and it's Friday the 13th. They're getting married on Friday the 13th. Ooh. Base hit, Liriano. Into that at bat at 294. So he is now 6 out of 18. He's hitting .333.
You mean tree?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Little runner off the outside corner. Now Jaso, he hits the ball on the ground a lot. Extreme ground ball hitter. As I mentioned, Hamill used his curveball effectively in his last start, got more ground ball outs than he normally does. So struck him out with the curveball first time, but he's going to be fishing for that ground ball here.
And he gets it. Oh, are you on top of it? 4-6-3.
Yeah, and that's Clint Hurdle in a little bit of a predicament there because of Jaso's ground ball tendencies. He'd probably like to try to start a runner, but it's your pitcher, so hang with him.
That Cubs double play replay coming up, brought to you by State Farm. Combine your car and home insurance with State Farm and save. Find an agent at statefarm.com. So the reward for getting that double play ball is facing a perennial MVP candidate with 2 outs and nobody on.
It's interesting that State Farm sponsors the double play. It's a good neighbor. In the neighborhood play is an issue. You can no longer get away with it.
Right. That's out in the left center. McCutchen around first on his way to second. And he'll stop there with 2 outs. He's 2 for 2 and has been aggressive.
I've seen 2 pitches.
2 in that.
2 of that. 2 of that.
So 3 total.
1 and 2. I wasn't paying attention to the first one. I was talking about the neighborhood play.
Right.
He's seen 3 pitches and he has 2 hits. It's a tremendous ratio.
Now Polanco, he struck out in the first inning.
And McCutchen, one of those guys, when he comes to town and you look at the stat sheet and you see he's hitting 240 something, you think, oh, that's not good, because you know he's not going to stay there.
Backdoor curve is off the plate. News out of Texas, the Rangers are going to select the contract of hard-throwing right-handed reliever Matt Bush. We saw Bush pitch against the Cubs in spring training. He was the #1 overall pick in 2004. Spent some time in jail after a DUI. He was a shortstop, right, originally?
Yes.
And then became a pitcher. And when we saw him in the Cactus League, the stuff was like 97, 98.
Yep. It was nice, free and easy.
So,
good for him. Great story.
Ball 3. Marte is on deck.
Clearly not going to give in.
Here is Marte.
So I don't believe that was a situation where they're necessarily pitching around Polanco until they got behind him, and then they just weren't going to throw him a 3-0 cookie there. He's trying to hit the bottom of the zone. Base open, you'll be a little careful. Once you get into that hitter's count, probably makes sense to start fresh with a new guy, although the new guy here is having a heck of a year.
Swing and a miss. Power, speed. Marte's got both. One of 3 players since 2012. 50 homers and 100 steals. Mike Trout, Carlos Gomez, the other 2.
About the only thing that's missing from his game is the patience. He doesn't take a lot of walks. That's important if he continues to hit for such a high average.
It's early, but man, I'm thinking all the swings and misses have been on the slider.
Yeah.
Here early on.
Yeah. Well, I think Jaso punched out on a curveball, but these right-handed hitters, and that's what you see when Hamill's on his game. That slider that starts in the zone and runs off the outside corner. He'll get a lot of swings and misses and some weak contact.
In the dirt, couldn't get him to bite that time.
You feel comfortable pitching to Marte in this situation that ultimately he's highly likely to swing. You don't have to give in. Continue to make pitchers pitches. That time he went sinker away. The one concern is if you try to bust him in to open up the outside corner, he'll hang in there and take it. He gets hit by pitches a lot. But I think they're just going to try to work their way back to the slider away. That's probably how they'll try to finish him here.
And we got a curveball. Gets him. Much more Stevie. Congratulations to the lovely couple.
Mrs. Orth.
For your Cubs selfies, thanks to Jason Wheatley for sending his photo in today. Jeff Unger, hang in there. Went through chemo and radiation this week. Great picture with his dog. And my buddy Dax Nielsen, the great drummer from a Hall of Fame group Cheap Trick, just took that photo. They're watching us in the hospital as his wife Heather is about ready to go into labor with their first child.
There you go.
Can't you recognize his boots?
I thought I recognized those boots.
Breathe. Remember to breathe. That's for Dax, as well as Heather. Fowler fouls. 0-2. Shots obviously from the hospital. I have friends who unfortunately have visited family members who haven't been doing so well in the hospital, and I often get a text or a call and they say, you have no idea how important Cubs baseball is to a lot of people who are struggling health-wise. And you know, stuck in their hospital bed, and they turn the game on, and so for those 3 hours, it makes them feel a whole lot better.
And that's the beautiful thing about baseball, because we play so frequently. People can tune in day after day after day, and it's kind of like a soap opera.
1-2. The Cubs leadoff man. He strikes out for the second time.
The DraftKings Fantasy Sports Zone, located on the corner of Addison and Sheffield, is your game day headquarters. Open hours before the game. The DraftKings Fantasy Sports Zone has a large outdoor space, features live music, fully stocked signature Captain Morgan bar. Come out and enjoy this unique experience. Plus, fans with tickets have direct access to Wrigley Field. For more information, visit DraftKingsWrigley.com.
Hayward walked in the first. Off to a slow start, which has not been a new thing for him. And he knows that. It's not something he enjoys, starting slowly, but he knows it. In years past, he's been able to get locked in and doesn't seem to be overly concerned. Might be pressing a little bit in the new uniform. As you said the other day, it helps a lot when the team is winning games.
Yeah. Obviously, you want to do well. You want to be part of the fun, part of the production. But when you're scuffling, as long as the team is winning, it's not that important. He's walked twice here this afternoon.
Let's step aside and see what's coming up on WGN. JD and Len and our WGN Sports crew from beautiful Wrigley Field. Swept the Pirates last week in Pittsburgh.
Where would you rather be than right here, right now? What a day. Chris Bryant is quite a ball player, as you know. And we talked about Rizzo, the way he made those adjustments from, struggling against lefties, figured that out. The breaking ball. Chris Bryant tweaked his swing a little bit this offseason. He wanted to change the launch angle. He's hitting a lot of high fly balls. Wanted to stay in the zone a little bit longer, and he did it. Just like that. You look at his numbers. His strikeout rate is way down, like 10% fewer strikeouts this year than last. More line drives, less fly balls. Still obviously strong enough where he's going to hit a bunch of balls out of the ballpark. Maybe won't be quite as majestic, perhaps. Making more contact in the strike zone.
7 straight misses by Liriano. Bryant on a 3-0 swing. Pops it up. Harrison, in a circuitous route on a windy day, makes the catch.
You want to know who wanted no part of that one?
Polanco.
Yeah, I remember last year.
The Matt Caesar fly ball. Yeah.
Probably had a little flashback to last year. Harrison calling for it. I'm sure Polanco said, "Okay, you got it."
Right about here is where I tripped.
Yeah,
last year.
I'm surprised the Pirate players didn't come out and put a little chalk outline out there where he went down.
The kick and a pitch, and it's a strike on the outside. Our Lexus run predictor. 2 outs, 1 on. Cubs and Pirates right around league average. Brought to you by your Chicago area and Northwest Indiana Lexus dealer. is outside. 1-1. Liriano's from San Cristobal in the Dominican Republic. He was an outfielder growing up, and he showed up at a Giants tryout camp. And they eventually signed him, but they wanted him to pitch, something he was a bit reluctant to do at first, but gave in. How about the trade the Twins made prior to 2004? They got Liriano, Joe Nathan, and Boof Bonser. Just the name alone is worth it. For A.J. Przinsky, and we remember it did not go well for A.J. in San Francisco.
No, it didn't. It's gone well for A.J. since then.
Yes. Swing and a miss to end the frame. 5 strikeouts for the lefty in a scoreless tie. Pirates and Cubs scoreless. And make sure you stay tuned for the 7th inning stretch a little later on, brought to you by Budweiser, not backing down since 1876. This Bud's for you. Former Cub pitcher Scott Sanderson will conduct the stretch today. Ball 1 to Cervelli. Got a question on a tweet, and you have addressed this before, but I'm going to ask you to address it again. Question is, why do you guys swing 3-0? More so now than ever, probably.
Yeah, I think it is more so now than ever because pitchers have gotten so selfish, so unwilling to give in, and what you consider traditional fastball counts. That's the only time a modern hitter can really sell out and sit fastball against a lot of different pitchers. So I think that's why. You see a lot of 2-0 changeups. You see 3-1 changeups and breaking balls. So one time you can sit dead red, and if you've got a guy with power, you're going to turn him loose. And
2-2.
And it comes down to a matter of trust too. If the manager trusts the hitter to attack 3-0 if he gets a pitch, in the zone. If a guy continually flails that pitches out of the zone on 3-0, then you're probably going to stop giving him a green light.
Called strike 3. Good looking slider with 2 strikes, and he got a fastball instead.
He's waiting for that thing to break off the plate, and it was a 2-seam fastball, ran back and got a decent chunk of the plate.
Pirates were hit by a pitch as Gong nearly got clipped there 4 times Wednesday night. The Pirates and Reds like to do that. 6 total Wednesday over the last 4 seasons. 84 hit by pitches in that rivalry. Former Pirate Ross Ollendorf got a 3-game suspension, and his manager Brian Price a 1-game suspension. So former Cub manager Jim Riggleman will manage the Reds later tonight there in Philadelphia.
A lot of bad blood between the Reds and the Pirates, and Pirates pitching staff has earned a reputation of pitching aggressively inside. Well, this is appropriate. The newborn fan club is the perfect gift for parents of tiny cubs to showcase what it means to be a Cub for life. Receive a customized photo of the Wrigley Field marquee, a Cubs birth certificate, baby stocking cap, and unique Cubs onesie. Visit Cubs.com/kids for more information.
Harrison, 2 outs, nobody on. Pirates have not gone down in order yet.
This was the situation he found himself in the second. He dropped down a bunt and then immediately stole second base. That is one big pretzel.
You could probably share that with a friend. That is called the North Sider, that pretzel.
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
2-1. He held. It's 3-1. Ollendorf threw at David Freese while he got the suspension. He is appealing. There's no appeal process, though, for a manager.
They don't have a union. It's a great example of what we were talking about there. 3-1 slider. Just can't count on a heater. It's a deep lineup that the Pirates have. They've got power throughout the order. Harrison's got extra base punch. They're 6th in the league in runs scored. As Len mentioned earlier, they haven't hit a lot of home runs. Pitching is down. 10th in the league in ERA. Last year they finished 2nd in the National League in earned run average. Starters and the bullpen both significantly better last year than what they've done so far this season.
Fair ball. Bryant off balance throw. The stretch by Rizzo, and Harrison is out. Pirates go down 1-2-3 for the first time today. Bryant's played a lot of outfield here as of late, but still a third baseman at heart. Team pride with Cubs checking and an official Cubs MasterCard debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/Cubs to learn more. Member FDIC. And Zobrist looks at a strike. Nothing, bottom of the fourth. Pulled the left, base hit. And Zobrist has a leadoff single. First time the leadoff man has reached, first time he hasn't struck out to start an inning.
Toward the left field corner, Marte, very speedy, able to hustle over there and cut it off. He's one of the better left fielders in all of baseball. Zobrist has to drop anchor at first base.
Soler with an opposite field single his first time up. And he takes a pitch off the plate in. Ball one. Reference the Liriano no-hitter. It was with the Twins at the White Sox May 11th, 2011. What was unique about it? Well, he walked 6, struck out 2. Second pitcher in the modern era to have 4 more walks and strikeouts in a no-hitter. It was his first career complete game shutout. Swing and a miss on the change. And he also had the highest earned run average ever for a pitcher prior to a no-hitter. It was 9.13 going into that start.
I'd say he was due for a little regression.
Apparently so. Swing and a miss. To wear the hat today. It's there at the ready.
Sombrero, you could do a little chip and dip thing with there. You could put the north sider in there. Wrap it right around the crown of that hat. Get yourself some mustard, and you're good to go.
Good take. 2 on, nobody out.
Yeah, nice bounce back day here for Soler so far. Outfield single first time and showing good restraint here. This is a swing and miss chase pitch for a lot of guys so far today. Soler wise to Liriano's MO, looking for that changeup, able to lay off.
Don't love to bunt. Getting near the bottom of the order, so do not expect Russell to lay down a sac bunt here.
Well, he's been in this real nice groove here lately, has Russell, of shooting the ball the other way. He's got a big hole on the left side of the infield to operate on because they're playing a double play depth, and Young is closer to the line. The risk, of course, if you try to pull a ball, you might hit a routine, one hopper to short and turn that into a double play.
Pretzel never had a shot.
Give him another one. It's early in the day. He can handle it. The challenge for Liriano, if the Cubs are able to make the adjustment here and start to lay off that changeup, is to find plan B. Against the lefties, his fastball slider combination will probably be good enough. But if the Cubs start to lay off that changeup, he's going to have to throw more backdoor sliders or rely on the fastball a little bit more.
As a sign from Cervelli. And here's his 2-1 offering. It's 2-2.
If being the key term here, because it's so difficult to lay off that changeup. This might have been the slider.
87 miles an hour. And you're right. Yep. So he's gone fastball, changeup, slider. And just off the inside corner. He thought he had him. Pat Holberg said no. 3-2.
Yeah, he's begging a little bit there. Most pitchers would expect that one to be called.
The 3-2. High towering fly ball deep to the left. Gone! A 3-run homer for Russell. How about the hang time on that one?
He's a strong kid, very strong hands. You shake his hand, you go, wow, this kid's got legitimate hand strength, very strong, powerful swing by Russell. And he's just gotten better and better. I talked about his approach the other way. Yeah, he's thinking the other way, but you make a mistake, something soft up in the zone, he's going to hurt you.
He is in a great groove. He's got a 7-game hitting streak. 12 hits during this stretch.
Talking to John Maley about him a few days ago, and they incorporated a leg kick with him last summer, and it's made a very big difference. John talked about his timing being better, staying on the fastball, and he said, and he can handle mistake spin. Whereas before he couldn't. He wouldn't stay back. He'd be fooled even by bad breaking balls. He was out in front a lot.
Time for a Southwest Airlines. How far did it fly? 384 feet. Go to WGNTV.com/contest for a chance to win round trip travel for 2 on Southwest Airlines. This could be tricky, but Polanco battling the sun and the wind makes the catch. It's the first out.
So hitting over 400 on the homestand. Four doubles, a triple to go along with that home run.
Cubs are 49 and 47 all time on Friday the 13th.
What is the genesis of Friday the 13th being bad luck, do you know?
I think the number 13 in general is part of it. How Friday fits in. I don't know.
So in other words, it's a given that the number 13 is unlucky. We just can't figure out why Friday the 13th is even more so.
I assume it happened before the movie came out.
Wouldn't that be a coincidence?
According to Wikipedia, which is always very reliable, right?
Hamill hit.
Third hit of the inning for the Cubs. It originated over the Last Supper. 13 individuals.
Really?
That would have been on a Thursday, night before his death on Good Friday. So they're saying it started in the Middle Ages.
Wow, there you go.
I don't know.
See? Something we did not know that we now know.
That's the theme from Friday the 13th.
We're not just going to give you baseball here, folks. There's some serious minutia.
It says in Spanish-speaking countries, Tuesday the 13th is considered an unlucky day. Friday the 17th in Italy. Well, we gave you way more information than you wanted. 1-0 on Fowler.
Lucky Day, wasn't that one of the guys on the Three Amigos? Wasn't one of the characters Lucky Day?
Good band. Fouled off. We have Twitter replying. Knights Templar rounded up on Friday the 13th by the Catholic Church. So, you know, we're going to get a lot of different ideas. Six, 4-3. So the double play ball ends the inning, but Addison Russell on a 3-2 offering hit one into the bleachers and left. It's 3-0 Cubs. Is brought to you by Fifth Third Bank, the Curious Bank. It's a 3-0 lead for Jason Hamill, thanks to Addison Russell, who hit a 3-run homer. 8-9-1 Mercer, Liriano, and Jaso for the Bucks. Slowly hit to short. Time for Russell, and he makes the play.
Home run by Russell, his third this year. Could easily see him hitting 15 home runs or more and morphing into a guy who year in and year out gives you 20 plus.
So on our Len and JD account, which we'll try to change on Twitter to JD and Len at some point, we have almost 71,000 followers, right? And we get a lot of posts and messages from people about baseball, but when we bring up stuff like Friday the 13th, it just blows up. People start arguing about all the details. And that's what I get asked about more than anything else. I don't know how you are, but people are like, you remember that day you guys talked about whatever? And like, no. Oh, yeah, you were carrying on about something not related to the game. Mariano will ground out 3-1.
Hey, Cub fans, join the Cubs season ticket holder waiting list. Do it today. Claim your spot in our lineup for season tickets. It's easy. It's free to register. For details, visit Cubs.com/waiting list.
So you've got game notes and stat packs and all kinds of stuff in the booth. And Paula handed you the promo sheet, and it got stuck between.
In my game notes here. And
so that's why there was a little delay in getting to it.
I think it's a left-handed thing. Very sloppy. Always
on the ground, and Jaso's got a base hit.
Way more Oscar than Felix, this program over here. Here, Paula, you take that back so I don't lose it.
CHN already 2 out of 2. Single double. He came in at 248. His average has gone up 12 points.
Been very aggressive. Swinging early with Sue. See if Hamill. No, right after him.
Rizzo's got room, foul territory, and he makes the catch right in front of the bullpen, and that's it. Pirates done in the 5th. Cubs 3, Pittsburgh nothing.
Cubs baseball is brought to you by Budweiser, not backing down since 1876. This Bud's for you.
Nothing. Cubs had won 8 in a row before getting swept in a doubleheader on Wednesday against the Padres. Jason Hayward Looks at ball one. Breaking ball drops in for a strike. There's a base hit in front of McCutchen. Hayward on for the third time. We want to extend our deepest condolences to WGN's Terry Bates and his family on the loss of his father, Floyd Bud Bates. Thinking about you, Terry. Bryant steps out. Look at the runner before the pitch, and the fastball is low. And regretted it just as he started to swing. Well, Hayward is the only left-handed hitter in the lineup. And we've talked before about sometimes when you have guys like Liriano with that devastating changeup, it's not a bad idea to have him.
Yeah, give the guy a little different look.
Oh, Rizzo.
Yeah.
Rizzo and Hayward. Anthony has started every game. In the air to deep left. Marte back to the wall. Gone. Two-run homer for KB. 5-0.
Liriano not used to giving up damage like this in this ballpark. At a 1.56 ERA. Look at how quick Bryant was. That ball in on the hands off the plate, gets those hands pulled in, and gets the barrel out in front. I mean, he didn't crush it, but he is so strong, and it's a favorable day here with that wind. But that's an impressive swing of the bat.
Russell and Bryant have gone deep. Rizzo trying to do the same. Center field, McCutchen back to the 400 marker, off his glove. And Rizzo has a double.
The Cubs have made a lot of noise the last couple innings. Rizzo just misses going back to back with Bryant. McCutchen just misses the baseball. Had another step, didn't realize it. Didn't feel like getting a face full of vine and brick. Get some action going in the Pirate bullpen.
Ray Searage will head to the mound. So Russell with his third. Bryant with number 6.
Three-game sweep in Pittsburgh. It was a pretty dominant performance by the Cubs. They outscored the Pirates 20-5 in that three-game series. Hurting on them so far here this afternoon. They did not face Liriano in that three-game series in Pittsburgh.
Ryan Vogelsong playing catch in the bullpen. Still nobody out. Everything happened with nobody out in the 4th. Zobrist started that rally. Rizzo now with 6 doubles in 4 games against the Pirates this year, and he's got a career best 25 game on base streak, longest active streak in the National League.
Since April 20th, Anthony batting .352, 8 doubles, 7 home runs, 19 scored, 18 driven in. That's an 18-game stretch of big-time production for Anthony Rizzo.
Three and one. Single, walk, and a run for Soler. So 2 guys who have been scuffling have had perfect days, Soler and Hayward. This is the changeup.
And that's okay because it's early, right? He's up there, he's got a couple guys on, he's thinking about doing damage, so he took a big aggressive swing, guessing fastball, got fooled, but he still has a couple pitches to work with. He's got 1 to work with. He got fooled again. It was a changeup that he took for ball 4 last time. That's what you're looking for when you talk about the maturation, the development of a young hitter. Are you able to react to the situation, change your approach a little bit based on how you're being pitched? Mariano's right, and we haven't seen the slider as being that much of a weapon for him here today. It's almost like facing a knuckleballer, the unpredictability of the movement, because the changeup and the slider, he throws at the same velocity, and the question is, if you don't pick up the spin, is it going to go left or right on me?
Soler strikes out. First time he's been retired today.
Change up, and then that looked like the slider for strike 3.
Nice hand for Russell, who gave the Cubs the lead with his 3-run blast in the 4th outside.
If you haven't purchased your Addison Russell stock, you better get on board quickly because that price is going to skyrocket. This is an emerging market here.
Xfinity speed replay. Speed replay brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV.
Back and look at a lot of Liriano's starts, even the ones where he puts up very good numbers. He doesn't spend much time in the zone. It's all about deception for him. Ball starting on the plate, dipping down below the knees, running off the corners.
Like that.
That's and that was the question. Can the Cubs, could the right-handed hitters in particular, make an adjustment as this game has gone along. Lay off some of those changeups and face him force him into the zone. And you see the breakdown.
Called strike 3 this time on a fastball.
And I bet you if you go back and you look at this game, you're going to find very few fastballs in the strike zone. And that one's right at the bottom of the knees.
Side to Ross. Everything else is later under the lights, including Chris Sale going for his 8th win as the White Sox in New York against the Yanks. Gave it to Ross out in the deep left center. Way back. It's going to go. Grandpa Rossi with a 3-run shot. 8-0.
What a swan song year he is having. That's going to do it for Liriano. The Ross home run chases Francisco Liriano from this ball game. 3rd home run of the year for Grandpa, and they're getting after it in the Cub dugout.
So Ross now with his 99th career home run. It is 8-0, and we'll be back. Men on base for all of them. Southwest Airlines, how far did it fly? The Ross homer, 395 feet. Go to WGNTV.com/contest for a chance to win round-trip travel for 2 on Southwest Airlines.
The raw emotion out there in the bleachers. The inability to make the play. There's all Brandy Chastain on us.
Ryan Vogel's song. 1-0 on Jason Hamill.
Oh, the humanity. The song, the veteran's been around a long time. He's approaching his 39th birthday. That'll come later on this summer. He's made 1 start. So 8 appearances out of the pen prior to today.
Hamill now in a very good position to improve to 5-0 on the season. Since 1930, only 5 Cubs have started a year at least 4-0 with a sub-2 ERA in their first 6 starts. 2 of those guys are on this particular staff, Hamill and Arrieta. Swing and a miss. And that will end the inning, but it is the Cubs 8 and the Pirates nothing.
It's time to get the chains out. Is your tongue tied up? Is it
Liriano had done previously here at Wrigley Field had been lights out, but today allowing 3 home runs and getting knocked out in the 5th, down 8-0.
From lights out to lit up. He does not stand alone. This Cub lineup has done a lot of damage. And so many talented starting pitchers in the National League. Jason Hamill went 5 innings last time out. He went 5+ the previous start. You know, it's been a little bit of an issue with him. Last year, he felt like he got pulled early on a few occasions. And now he's got a golden opportunity to really stretch it out with his big lead. This bullpen able to catch its breath with the day off yesterday.
Another off day coming up on Monday before a 3-city road trip to Milwaukee, San Francisco, and St. Louis.
I think Jason was tempted at all with an 8-run lead and through 5 innings to look at Joe and go, okay, Skip, I'm good. I'm good today. I'm going to take it to the house.
A low pitch count, as this will be his 70th. Polanco fouls.
Are you in charge of planning your next social gathering? Plan a day or night here at Wrigley Field. Enjoy special perks only available inside the ballpark. Cubs offer special ticket packages for groups of 15 or more. Visit Cubs.com/groups.
Line shot deep right and played off the wall by Hayward. Polanco's got a leadoff double. Let's step aside and see what's coming up on WGN. All Cubs so far today. Pirates batting in the 6th, down 8-0. I want to send out happy 80th birthday wishes to a longtime Cubs usher, Walter Johnson.
The big train.
Yeah, he had a boat, called it the Big Train. I guess he has every program, every Cubs program from 1949 to 2016.
Wow.
Matt and Katie Walker from Champaign here at the ballpark today, celebrating their 2nd wedding anniversary. So they're no longer newlyweds, right? 2 years?
No, they're veterans. Almost arbitration eligible.
Base hit to right for Marte. Polanco will stop at 2nd, or 3rd rather, so they have 2 on with nobody out for Cervelli.
I got an 8-run lead here for Jason Hamill. You got to just start getting outs. Don't worry too much about the base runners. Trying to go down and away. Had it float back over the middle of the plate and up for Marte. Cervelli, another one of those guys that hits the ball on the ground a fair bit. Day off. Joe Madden is not going to get caught by surprise here. He's going to be ready to react. So Adam Warren will start to loosen up.
Zimmerman leads away, but yeah, pretty impressive list.
Taijuan Walker, the Mariners looks like he's figuring it out.
Marte faked towards 2nd and then put on the brakes. I don't know if he was going to go and stumbled or if that was a planned play. Probably not. 8-0. I don't know.
Yeah, the only reason you run there is you have to be pretty convinced you're going to make it down 8, and just trying to stay out of the double play. Clint Hurdle knows he needs a couple crooked numbers to get back into this ball game. Soft underfoot maybe for Marte. He has stolen 9 bases, been caught 3 times.
Jose Reyes, under the new domestic violence policy, suspended through the end of May by Major League Baseball. Never did go to spring training with the Rockies. I believe that case was dropped, but he will be suspended
case,
without pay till the end of May.
Criminal case. You're talking
Criminal
about.
case. Runner goes, pitch in the dirt, and Marte is safe, and the Pirates get a run. It will be an error probably charged to Ross. 8-1 as Marte is now at 3rd.
Did not have a big lead, didn't have that great of a jump either. You see the frustration on the part of Zobrist out there. He knows that's on him to make sure he knocks that ball down.
Infield back in a 7-run ball game. Cervelli taps toward third, and it would be a hit. Did Bryant let that go on purpose? If so, it's a really smart play just to see if it might kick foul. Because he had no shot to get Cervelli. 8-2.
Cervelli will take that RBI, won't he?
Oh, yeah.
Slow roller.
Yeah, he did. He just let it go.
Decided,
Smart play.
Yep. That inner clock was ticking, and he knew he wasn't going to make a play on Cervelli, so he lets it roll and hopes for the best.
So double, single, steal, throwing error, single. To get the Pirates on the board.
Young in Korea had big power numbers. Some concern as to whether that would translate here or not. Really struggled last spring for the Pirates. Got off to a slow start, but ultimately rebounded and hit 15 home runs, so it's in there. You've got to be careful with as you work your way towards the bottom of the Pirate order.
Quality baby.
Yeah, that's a QB right there. A little head rocking thing going on.
Swing and a miss, 1-2.
Still a lot of baseball left, and the park is playing small today.
Swing and a miss. That's the first out.
That would be his bread and butter. His meal ticket.
His hot appetizer. Harrison 1 for 2 with a stolen base, maybe 2. 6, 4, 3. Inning over. Pirates do get a couple, but they trail by 6 in the 6th.
Was brought to you by State Farm. Combine your car and home insurance with State Farm and save. Find an agent at statefarm.com. There's your double play replay. Got a little pace on it. 6-4-3. And we'll cleans up the inning and we move on.
One unearned run of the two that scored. Ball one on Dexter Fowler. He's 0 for 3 today. He went 0 for 4 in the nightcap the other night, failing to reach base for only the 3rd time in 32 games. Jaso down to a knee. Vogelsong gets Fowler to the base. Best way to get to Wrigley Field is through public transportation. The Cubs offer a free bike check as well, now located near the Addison Red Line station. For drivers, Cubs provide free remote parking and shuttle service on night and weekend games. For information, visit the A to Z guide on Cubs.com. Pirates were 8.5 out, gained a game and a half on Wednesday. They beat the Reds. Cubs got swept. Cubs trying to get that back to 8 over the Pirates and 7.5 over the Cardinals with a win here today. Cardinals are in Los Angeles to play the Dodgers tonight. Won 3 straight out west. Strikes on Hayward. Vogelsong back once again with the Pirates. He's been a Giant and a Pirate 2 different times each. Richard looks on from the bullpen mound.
Must mean you're a good guy, right? You keep bringing you back to the same spot.
I think so.
The big debate surrounding the Pirates is when do they pull the trigger and call up those 2 young prospect pitchers that they have, Jameson Taillon and Tyler Glasnow down at AAA. 2 big right-handers with outstanding stuff, high ceiling guys. As we mentioned, the pitching for the Pirates has not been anywhere near as good as it was last year. These guys could be real difference makers.
It's bad luck for Hayward as he lines to Marte. Now our Mazda replay cam. MLB Central today, a couple of former Cubs, Mark DeRosa and Ryan Don Cherry Dempster, rocking the funky suit.
We used to have a sofa made out of that fabric.
Thanks to Chris Russo for having me on high heat today too.
Yeah, they do a good job over there. Good program. You guys had a lot of fun on that morning show.
Oh, get out of the way swing.
Did you get your high heat T-shirt from Mad Dog yet?
I don't have
Must
one.
be in the mail. Some high heat for Bryant.
The Segway machine today. Curveball bounces 1-2. Right there, Segway machine. Have you ever ridden one of the Segways?
I have not.
Oh,
There's a
really
Segway
fun.
about a Segway.
Yes.
Those Russian nesting dolls at Segways.
My head hurt. Speaking of nesting, no. Okay. Swing and a miss. And the inning is over. Scott Sanderson coming up in the 7th. Cubs fan cams. One of our hot stove cool music fans, avid dancer. Come on out June 17th at Metro, metrochicago.com and etix.com for tickets. 8-2 Cubs. Pirates batting here in the 7th inning, and Jason Hamill's back out there. And Scott Sanderson, who will conduct the stretch, has joined us in the booth. Product of Glenbrook North High School, long-time Major League pitcher. Always good to see you, Scott.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. It's just awesome to be back out at Wrigley Field, even when the wind's blowing out.
It's a good day, man. Yeah, it's a good day to be up here with the wind blowing out.
I told my wife on the way to the game today, great day to be a hitter, not such a good day to be a pitcher, and yet incredible job that Hamill's doing today.
Leading 8-2 here in the 7th. So we talked about Liriano with his changeup, slider combination. The out pitch for Hamill has been his slider. You had the great curveball. When did you learn, and who taught you to throw that curve?
Do you remember Billy Connors?
Yes,
Billy Connors taught me that curveball, and he actually taught it to me down in Venezuela. I went down there to play winter ball one year, and we just decided that we were going to go down there and we were going to work, and we worked and worked and worked, and that was my a big ticket to success.
So this was you were coming up with the Montreal organization.
I did. I got drafted by the Expos and actually was in the big leagues less than a year later. But in between the day that I got drafted and got to the big leagues, there was a winter ball stint in there, and I learned so much. Actually, one of the toughest hitters back then was Clint Hurdle.
Oh yeah,
and he was down there wearing pitchers out.
We were just doing a big segue inning, and you just continued it, and look at that.
Ooh, that is not pretty.
Styling right there.
I looked then and go, what, did we not have mirrors back then?
No way. If ever there was an adjective right before Scott Sanderson, it would be the stylish right-hander.
Yes, and I would say the youthful too. I know you have a big birthday coming up this summer, but you don't look it.
Yeah, I'm going to be 60. I don't know what that means or what it feels like, but I know I feel great. I got a lot of energy, and I tell you what, I'm loving life right now.
Well, Joe Madden is a little older than you, but he's very youthful and exuberant as well. And this team has really taken to him.
Yeah, Joe's an outside the box thinker, and that alone will keep you young.
Sean Rodriguez will pinch hit for Vogelsong. Got him on the sinker. First out.
I think that slider, right? He's thrown that slider so effectively. I think he's caught a couple guys looking at fastballs today. Rodriguez has kind of become persona non grata with Cub fans.
You know, JD, you know that when you put doubt in a hitter's mind,
I can think.
that's half the battle right there. And then so that's the mental part of the game, and now the physical part of it, actually executing your pitch. But when you win that mental battle, you're a long way toward victory.
0-2 on Rodriguez.
And clearly those were pretty weak swings there, and it looks like he was sitting fastball, and so now, quite frankly, he doesn't know what's coming.
That's why he was just talking to himself.
Off the outside that time.
Do you know what team you beat more than any other team in your Major League career?
I don't. I have no idea.
Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh, good. Good for them. Glad they're here.
This is your life, Scott Sanderson.
Yeah, my family says thank you to the Pittsburgh Pirates.
First career shutout against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Remember that one? That was 78.
You know what? Back then, when I started, and you're pitching against the We Are Family Pirates back then, and they were the monsters. And so when you could do well against them, you know, it actually was. I think probably after that game that.
Swing and a miss, strike 3.
After that game, I realized, you know what? I might have something here. I think I might be here for a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 down, John Jaso.
I do remember a game against the Pirates where I actually came in relief in the 9th inning. Ended up losing the game, but I pitched 9 shutout innings in relief and lost in the bottom of the 18th inning.
Oh my!
At Three Rivers Stadium, and so in essence, I threw a shutout out of the bullpen. But that's not. I have to tell you, that's not a lot of fun to be in that position.
Wow!
Every time your team doesn't score a run, you know you have to throw 2 consecutive shutout innings to win.
2-0 to Jaso with McCutchen on deck.
It's funny how we remember the good games, and all the myriad of bad games just somehow seem to slip from our memory.
Well, we have a second. You got a chance to play with a Hall of Famer, Andre Dawson, not only in Montreal but here in Chicago. Would there be too many better players you saw on a regular basis than Hawk?
No, he's right at the very, very top of the list. Certainly the best that I played with. I would put it right at the top of the list of those that I played against. I always bring up Paul Molitor. Paul was not only a great player, hit for average, hit for power, had a lot of speed. He's one of the smartest ball players I've ever played with.
2-1.
A guy you could see managing someday. And lo and behold,
Here he is. Yeah.
Well, he's got
not having a lot of fun these days.
No, he's got a brilliant baseball mind, and it's not an accident that every single team he played on won. He would elevate everyone around him, and he's one of the best.
It's Jared Hughes in the Pirates bullpen. Hamels 3-1 is way outside. Ball 4. Here comes McCutchen, and that's going to be it as Joe Madden will make a move. Scott will get you ready to sing the stretch coming back, but always a pleasure to see you here at Wrigley Field.
Thank you. Great being back here. Thanks for having me.
Scott Sanderson coming up with the stretch, but first pitching change, and we'll be back. ovation a Cubs player has received all year. Jason Hamill was touched by it. That was great.
Yeah, well, it's a feel-good day here at the ballpark. Cubs have hit 3 home runs. They have a comfortable lead. He pitched his tail off yet again. A well-deserved ovation. And an understandable pitching change as well. McCutchen, who's had a lot of success off Jason this year in his career. 2 hits today. Why give him a 4th look at the same pitcher?
So it is Adam Warren. 3 wins in relief. Just 7 hits allowed in his 14 innings of work. Jay saw the runner at first, 2 outs, 7th inning. Ooh, big swing and a miss by McCutchen. With the wind blowing out, 8-2 does not feel like it would if the wind were blowing straight in, does it?
Yeah, and I think that one more reason to make the pitching change, not to say that McCutchen can't do damage against Warren, but a fresh arm out there, give McCutchen a different look.
Just missed the corner.
He's a pitch maker. He's not just up there humping it up there. He really knows how to work a hitter, has good command of the fastball.
Talking with Adam today. Tim Fedorovich was a college teammate of his at North Carolina. That's a strike. And Harvey played with a lot of good future major leaguers at North Carolina. Kyle Seager, Andrew Miller, Chris Iannetta, Dustin Ackley. Excellent program. Head coach Mike Fox. Bounce to third. Bryant's got it. Time now for the 7th inning stretch with Scott Sanderson. It is brought to you by Budweiser.
Today's guest conductor for Take Me Out to the Ballgame, former Cubs pitcher Scott Sanderson.
All right, let me hear you now. A 1, a 2, a 3. To the ballgame, take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack.
Jared Hughes, big right-hander, is on.
Turbo sinker.
By Rizzo. Nice job, Scott Sanderson. Nice guy.
Yeah, as you mentioned, he pitched a long time in the big leagues. Came up. Not a whole lot of seasoning. And the Expos organization out of Vanderbilt. 163 big league wins. Made an all-star team with the Yankees. 1991.
Popped into short left. Long run in. Marte for the out.
A little bit of a late break on that one, but it was high enough. He had plenty of time to track it down.
Zobrist on twice, scoring both times. Bring up a terrific slash line. 313, 437, 491.
Now, we've got our new statistic that we came up with, a tourniquet. The reliever comes in and it kind of holds the other team down. But a Vogelsong in inning the third probably didn't
4 outs.
Yeah, I don't think that qualifies as a tourniquet. Maybe a Band-Aid.
Yeah. I'm thinking you have to go at least 2 innings, maybe more. Team trailing. And you go multiple innings. It's kind of where we're going with the tourniquet idea. Stop the bleeding, save your bullpen, maybe give your team a chance. 1-2. How about the story of 9 shutout innings in relief and then losing?
Yeah.
Scott Sanderson. 2-2 on Zobrist. Soler on deck.
Those days where starting pitchers probably told, hey, we might be a little short in the pen. Bring your spikes just in case we need you. 9 innings later. Hang with them.
Harrison gets Zobrist. Time now for our Ford upcoming schedule, brought to you by Ford, inviting you to visit your local Ford store or localfordstores.com. Off day Monday after this series, and then Milwaukee for 3, San Francisco for 3, and then St. Louis. Pitches here Hughes thought were strikes. Didn't get them. One and one.
The run predictor, our Lexus run predictor, 2 outs, nobody on. So you don't score very often. It's good to have power in your lineup because one swing of the bat can change that. So they're certainly capable. Hughes continues to bury that sinker down below the knees. See if we accommodate Soler and elevate one here.
Three and two. It was August 6, 1989. It was 8 innings for Scott. Gave up 1 run, took the loss. 110 pitches out of the Cubs bullpen at Three Rivers Stadium. 5 hours, 42 minutes. McCutchen on the run. And the inning is over. Cubs lead the Pirates late, 8-2. Get amazing deals at the Honda Dream Garage sales event. Now at your Honda dealer. Jason Hamill working into the 7th. Getting a lot of run support, but pitching extremely well once again. The Cubs' runs have all come on home runs. They have outscored the Pirates. Looks like the Bears and the Steelers 28-7 so far this year. See the changes in yellow.
Slides out to left. Javi Baez at third, and now the lefty Clayton Richard pitched the top half of the 8th, at least some portion of it. Polanco up there to get things started. Has pitched 10 ball games, but just 5 2/3 innings. So a lot of times it's just an out or two before passing the baton along. Hamill today 6 2/3, 8 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned, walked 2, struck out 8. He has lowered his ERA to 1.77.
Isn't that what Jake Arrieta's ERA was last year? 1.77. That one thumped out into the alley. In and out of the vines. Polanco's got 2.
MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you have come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. Includes a free subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions do apply. Visit MLB.TV for details.
That will be it for Richard. Trevor Cahill is in, and we're back in a moment.
Cahill on for the 13th time. ERA has been coming down in recent outings. Scoreless baseball over his last 4, covering 7 frames. 7 scoreless since giving up 3 back on April 23rd against the Reds.
Marte looks a little low. Clouds above now. Blue sky when we started. Might get a little rain later.
Trevor debuted with the A's in 2009, a starting pitcher. Found early success. Second year in the league, he was an 18-game winner. 2.97 ERA. Came up, young guy when he came up. He's only 28 now.
Breaking ball strike. Cahill and Richard, two guys became a big part of that bullpen at the end of last year. Toiling in the minor leagues for other organizations. In Richard's case, it was with the Pirates. On the ground, Zobrist backhand, safe. I don't know if Cahill really had a play, but it looked like he purposely tried not to deflect that ball. And Marte, with great wheels, able to beat it out.
Yeah, if he had a mulligan, maybe he would have tried to make a play on it. Normally, that's the play, though. Let it go. Let those guys behind you make the play. But Marte can really scoot. Let's see, I don't know. I think it was Bime by the time he pulled his glove back anyway.
So, 2 on, nobody out. Once again for Cervelli. The same situation in the 6th. And he ended up with an infield RBI single. This game is not over. Not even close. Pirates can score runs. Pedro Strop just grabbed the ball in the home bullpen. There goes Marte. The throw will go through. Not in time. So it's unconventional, but Clint Hurdle has had Marte running here with his team down big in the 6th and now again in the 8th.
And again, I think it's the sinker baller of Cahill being a ground ball guy, Cervelli being a guy who hits the ball on the ground a fair bit. It's aggressive, but in a certain respect, it's defensive, just trying to stay out of a double play.
Swing and a miss. It's 1-2.
It's passive aggressive is what it is.
Well, maybe not in the classic sense, but I know what you mean.
Modern day game, the managers, they're taking the quote unquote book and they're tearing it into shreds.
Pirates down 6 runs, but they have out-hit the Cubs 10-9. 3 of the Cubs' 9 hits have been home runs with men on base. Shot foul and out of play. Paid crowd today, 37,479. Camera right beyond the foul pole on the left field line. Great shot of the ballpark.
See where people might accuse Joe of over managing today in the 8-2 ball game, but again, given this Pirate lineup and the way the ballpark is playing today, understandable that he is wheeling and dealing with that bullpen the way he is. Wood going to hop up and join Strop. Of course, he's got Jake Arrieta scheduled to pitch tomorrow and John Lester the next day, and that frees him up too to make liberal use of the bullpen.
Blanco ready to tag, Hayward ready to throw, and everybody's going to hold.
The catch being the first out in the inning, no need for Polanco to risk it here. And watch Jason Hayward. You talk about getting everything into a throw.
Jung-Ho Kang has homered 3 times in his first 5 games since coming back from the disabled list. Very dangerous with the wind blowing out today.
Early, he'll use that big leg kick. If he gets 2 strikes, normally he'll quiet that down. When he's looking to generate power, he uses the big leg kick.
Two. This one not very deep. Runner's ready to tag. Whipple's going to hold again. Well, actually hit the side of the mound, but Polanco had already made his decision. 2 down.
Well, both these plays very instructive, right? In that whole, we talk a lot about the tag-up play at third base, when you should go, when you shouldn't go. And the score dictates being cautious here. Normally with 1 out, you're going to be more aggressive than you are with nobody out. And that's always a challenge for the center fielder to make that throw over the mound. But in both instances, even as strong as the Hayward throw was, in both instances, if Polanco goes, he scores.
And it would probably be 8-4. Because Marte would have been at third for that one, so they would have gotten both guys in.
And I'm not saying they should have sent him, but just in hindsight.
1-1 to Harrison.
And even though the ball to center field was much shallower, I like the send there, but I like the 1-out send. The center fielder's got to carry the mound. Fowler doesn't have the arm that Hayward has.
Is it somewhat ironic that Marte stole second and then they didn't try to tag up? Baez to Rizzo, and they get out of it. Trevor Cahill does not allow anything. To 2. New battery now for the Bucks. It's Chris Stewart back at the plate, and on the mound, hard-throwing Archimedes Caminero.
Yeah, Archimedes, man, he can really deliver the goods. 100 miles per hour with that heater. Has not translated into a lot of success. 11 walks and 13 2/3. That'll get you.
Ahead a home run belonging to Russell. 3-run shot off Liriano in the 4th.
Not comfortable at bat against this guy. Struggles with command and throws 100 miles per hour. Test your mettle. Hang in there.
Heard of air guitar?
Uh-huh.
What do we call what Mark Melanson's doing in the bullpen?
Oh, yeah. Simulating.
Deep center field, McCutcheon has room on the warning track. 8th inning, so it's time for the Mattress Firm Great 8 stat of the game. David Ross and Deoner Navarro, the former Cub, leading the way with 12 RBIs in the 8th spot. It's brought to you by Mattress Firm, where we want you to sleep happy, guaranteed. Remember, if it's over 8, it's time to replace. Starlin Castro on that list. He homered last night.
Yes, he did.
For the Yankees.
Having a nice year. He got off to a great start, then went into a bit of a funk, but he's picked it back up. Overall, the numbers are solid for Starlin.
They beat the Royals. Defending champions have lost 12 out of 16.
I'm just assuming that Aledmys Diaz is not batting in the 8th spot very much anymore. He's been one of the best hitters in baseball.
He hit 9th the other day.
That's right, he did. Yeah. Batting 383. Got an OPS of 1,066, 3rd best in the National League. It's not a bottom of the order hitter.
He has been basically 7, 8, or 9, save for a leadoff opportunity on May 4th. He's batted 9th the last 3 days in Anaheim. Right field and a base hit. Ross is 3 for 4.
He's out doing some running the other day before one of the games of the doubleheader, getting ready, and a bunch of fans in the left field bleachers started chanting, "One more year, one more year," trying to bring Rossi back. Intention is to go out in a blaze of glory, have a good year, help his team win a ring.
Go out on top. Baez, his first plate appearance, and he swings at the first pitch and is retired by Polanco. 2 outs. Fowler.
So are the Cardinals scoring a bunch of runs? They must be doing okay, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
If they were scuffling, then Diaz probably moves up in the batting order. He'll continue to think about making some changes, but he must feel pretty good about the way this club is playing.
The overall, I think they're only behind the Cubs runs per game.
Yeah.
6-5, 8-5, 12. 12-10 win last night.
So they're scoring plenty of runs. At some point, though, if this kid keeps it up, he's going to have to move him down.
Actually, they're third behind the Cubs and the Red Sox, who've gone off as of late. One gets away from Stewart. And the catcher's charged with a passed ball.
Rare, quiet day for Fowler so far. 0 for 4. Hasn't gotten the ball out of the infield yet.
Two and one. Into the outfield, and it'll drop for an RBI hit. Fowler trying for 2, and he's saved. 9-2 Cubs.
Dexter took an offer in the second game of the doubleheader. A lot of offers in that ball game. Cubs were shut down by Drew Pomeranz and others, but that was only the third time this year that Fowler had failed to reach base.
Hayward takes low. Cahill may head right back out there in the ninth. And it's Jake Arrieta tomorrow. Cubs have won his last 20 starts. That is a franchise record. The old record, 17 in a row. Ed Rulbach, 1906 and 7, and Pat Luby, 1890 and 91.
Luby, not Loogie, correct?
Correct. L-U-B-Y.
They named a cafeteria after him.
These starts, Dizzy Dean, Steve Stone on the list. Nice stash from 1975, Mike Harkey, and 2 teammates on this current Cubs staff.
Old Diz is the only guy that's not rocking a beard or a mustache. It's not been in vogue in 1938.
Ground ball up the middle, diving stop Rodriguez. He's up with it, and he gets Hayward to end the inning. The Cubs do add to their lead. It's a 7-run advantage as we go to the ninth. Pulls out the Pirates. Trevor Cahill back out after getting out of a jam in the 8th. The producer today, Mark Brady. Skip Ellison, our director. Tamara Anderson, our associate producer. Bob Vorwald, our executive producer. And Lauren Majera, hopefully will interview one of the winning Cubs after this game. Not over yet, but leading big here in the 9th. It's Cole Figueroa, just joined the Pirates this morning, and off the bench he grounds out.
A call up Figueroa sent out Kyle Lobstein, the left-handed relief pitcher.
Sean Rodriguez has certainly gotten Cubs fans' attention. Ejected after he was already out of the game in the wild card last October. And then had a stare down with Pedro Strop when we were in Pittsburgh. He can pick it. He's made some nice defensive plays.
He sure can. He can play all over the field. He's got power.
Like John Lackey for the Cubs, he supplies the grit, right?
Yeah, high energy. He's got a little edge to him.
You see Lackey's post-game comments the other day about Bethancourt. He got a long memory.
Christian Bethancourt, the catcher hit a long home run off of him, and they didn't really run out of the box. That did not sit well with Big John. He encouraged him to run as he watched the ball fly.
One out base runner.
Let's see if the Pirates employ the run to stay out of the double play approach. There goes Rodriguez.
He will not be given a stolen base. Travis Wood, or as we like to call that relief pitcher in an inning like this, that's Justin Case.
With a capital J.
Bounce to a backhanding Baez. 2 gone here in the 9th. Bring up McCutchen.
Bring up McCutchen, and it will bring all these Cub fans to their feet in anticipation of the final out.
High fly ball out in the deep left. Bryant on the warning track and gone. Into the front row of the bleachers. It's 9-4. Single, double, homer for McCutchen in 5 trips.
I'm guessing he's seen less than 10 pitches today. He's been very aggressive, obviously seeing the ball well. Has been swinging it well for a while now. After a tough start, the month of May has been much kinder to McCutchen. mistake. A sinker that didn't sink.
How big does that 8th inning escape job look now? You're giving up those 2. Could be a 3-run game, and got to get your closer in there. Old foul. Pitch. Behind 3-1, Marte on deck.
There's no panic there in the eyes of Quality Baby. Did you notice? Quality Baby, just, we got this.
Yep. Ball 4.
They're going to pay a visit. Joe Madden checking in with Lester Strode. They're going to get Rondon up, it looks like. I guess Trevor Wood is now just Trevor Wood, and Hector Rondon becomes just in case.
Travis
Wood.
Cahill.
Yeah.
Travis Wood.
Travis Wood. Lefty down there, Travis Wood. Yeah. One who's been here for like 7 years.
Marte 2 for 4. Bronco advances. 0-1.
Holberg, the home plate umpire today, has done a nice job. We haven't talked about him all afternoon. He was right yet again.
Cahill with a 1-1. It's fouled. Pirates down to their final strike. 2 outs, 9th inning. It's a sign from Ross. Here's the pitch. Fly ball to center field. It's Dexter Fowler. Cubs win. Cubs win 9-4 the final. After losing 2 in a row for the first time, they blow out the Pirates today. Home run ball was the story, and Jason Hamill is 5-0.
Able to snap that long 2-game, 1-day losing streak. And the ball to Jason Hamill. That's pretty good chance something good is going to happen the way he has pitched this year. 5-0 now. He's dropped his ERA to 1.77. So for those of you who pay attention to such things, that is now the 3rd best earned run average in the National League. Plenty of run support. Boy, Addison Russell, he is on a nice roll. Good to see Jason Hayward have some good ABs here. Hit the ball hard today. Grandpa Rossi goes deep. Chris Bryant continues to do all kinds of damage here in his home ballpark.
Cubs 26-8.
Follow the bouncing ball and sing along.
Majera is with David Ross. Lauren?
David, congratulations on the victory. My goodness, you guys make it look easy. You've outscored this club 29-9 in just the last 4 outings. How do you make it look so effortless?
I don't know. You must be talking about the other guys, because it ain't me that looks effortless. It's a lot of hard work. These guys are very talented. We got a real talented group. They have a plan. They want to win. They want to be great, and they come every day and play hard for the fans and for each other.
You don't give yourself enough credit. You were the 3-run homer today. You're 99th of your career. No doubt you want to get to 100 by the time you retire.
Yeah, it's a nice milestone, but I'm more worried about wins. Personal goals are what they are, but I just want to keep winning. This is a fun group to be a part of, and I'm just happy to contribute.
Hamill went 6 innings pitched, 8 strikeouts. Huge outing for him tonight.
Great outing. He's been very consistent for us. He did a great job today mixing his pitches. It's our whole rotation. These guys really put a lot of time and effort in the Scouting Report, along with our coaching staff. It's a fun group to catch, and Ham's just one of the many.
David, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations.
Very nice meeting you.
Back up to the booth to you guys.
Okay, Lauren, thank you. David Ross, big game today both ways as the Cubs beat the Pirates for the 4th time to start this season series. 9-4 the final.